Mac. Dang's 30 years got our way, trading life and markets every day. Rusty's chained to the mines, digging deep day by day. But when Option Omega releases new features, he's free to come out and play. Option Omega, you're trading home, where every move makes you feel less alone.
I love how that just undramatically ends every time. That fade out's amazing to me.
What is the video? The guy that's like, he's like doing a dance with the pickaxe.
Working in
Because-
the mine.
Because
He
you're a
whistles
hard
while he
worker.
works.
That is
You're a
classic.
hard worker, and there's
Yeah.
days where you are happy even when you're down there.
Just
Are you not?
It's just kind of it's a disturbing image. I don't know what's
A
happening.
disturbing image.
Yeah.
We
I mean,
filmed
you
it in East Tennessee. We filmed that
Yeah.
one in East Tennessee,
East
didn't we,
Tennessee.
Troy?
Do you want me to? Do you want me to show all the videos of you crying down there? Is that what you want?
That'd be a little more real.
Maybe we can have a behind the scenes remix of it one day, how we shot that video.
That's right.
Well, listen, guys. Huge day. A huge news event. I was going on a walk last night. I thought, as is my custom, let's just check futures for a second. Down 70. And was telling a friend, I was over at their house walking around in their neighborhood, told a friend, and I don't know if this is a really bad sign for me or a good sign, but his first question when I said, hey, Israel bombed Iran, he said, how's your futures doing? I said, what a world.
Wow.
What a world we
Priorities.
live in. Priorities. So
If by friend you mean like your other personality, is that who asked you that question?
Ooh.
Can you be real?
the mirror,
You're
the
the
mirror,
mirror.
the mirror.
Dark Troy. Yeah.
Yeah, Star Trek.
Evil Troy.
Yeah.
Goatee,
I like-
yeah, the goatee, Wario.
yeah.
Well, we have a special guest today, as always. We have Rusty on Fridays. Rusty, how's it going in OO land? Building the features out, taking care of
It's-
business.
It is going well. Yeah. I mean, first week, as I said last week, was pretty busy with a lot of support questions, a lot of tweaking things, but thankfully I think the critical mass of all that is sort of been reached. So things have slowed down. It's been a week where I could kind of focus and just continue to make things faster, more efficient. Added a lot of resiliency to the app for I was gonna say for crashes and things, but then all of our cloud Google went down, and AWS was down in parts, and Cloudflare. There was a bunch of stuff that went down. So I feel pretty good though. I saw that T-Mobile and AT&T's, all their web services were down. So little OO still kind of worked in the middle of it. So I feel okay about that.
I was telling Rusty yesterday, when we were developers, if AWS or Google Cloud goes down or something like that, that's like the closest thing to like an international snow day for developers, because you have to you're stuck in the office. They're not gonna just let you go home, but there isn't a thing you can do. There's nothing you can do. I mean, it's your computer's on, but that's about it. I mean, because the internet's built on these services, and so
How often would you say that in a year happened with you guys?
Oh, that
That
never
it
happened.
didn't
This
happen
has
much.
never happened before.
The last time, so we've been using Google as a cloud provider now for I don't know how many years, 4 years now.
Four years.
And
yeah.
it's never happened. And then
Wow.
I've only ever seen AWS professionally happen once, where there was a huge outage with their
But it-
storage service,
was
and
really
literally the
fun.
entire internet was down. Everyone was like, "Well,
Oh my.
I guess I'll get on my horse
Yeah.
and light some, oil lamps."
Oh sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't realize until those things happen that even the oil lamps are on AWS now.
There's smart lamps. Is that what
Yeah,
they are?
you quickly realize like what websites
That's funny.
Echo, light the
on.
kerosene.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or on AWS.
Oh no.
So, what a world. Guys, listen, we were just talking about this yesterday, a little heart to heart. This beautiful thing about backtesting is you learn. This is like the stages of grief I've seen new traders come through.
Stages of grief. I love that. Stages.
You show them a trade and they say, well, why would you trade anything else? That thing's going to be a zillion. You're going to be a zillionaire because you're showing them the 100% port trade that proves that it works with 100%
Right.
blah, blah,
They're
blah.
picking out their yacht online.
Oh yeah.
They say, listen, my wife, I'll make so much money so quick that I probably don't even need to tell my wife I put all this money in the bank.
I don't need to tell my wife.
Wow.
Like that.
And so,
Oh boy.
and then the second stage is they notice that there's a drawdown. And they say, maybe it's the drawdown that's happened like it should. You know, that people, you just ignored that 12% drawdown that you saw in your account before because you were looking at the money. But then maybe sometimes there's a regime change. And we were talking about this week a little bit. Guys, Matt, Rusty, Dan, the Reverse Iron Condor. Can we just have a safe place?
Yeah. we chopped it up. Was that yesterday we chopped it up? Let's chop it up some more.
We need to chop it up more.
Here's what I said yesterday. I think it's worth repeating. There is, first of all, recognize that there's an echo chamber to a degree on the internet in general, just as a concept. And the point I was trying to make yesterday is that a lot of we've demonstrated the RIC and shared backtests in multiple videos, multiple OO shows, and a lot of them are variations of a theme that doesn't have any exit and is closer to the money. Okay. A long iron condor that you enter in the morning closely after entry. The point I was trying to make yesterday is that as many variations there are of short iron condors, there is an opposite variation of a long iron condor.
That's
and
right.
The point I was simply trying to make is there are an infinite number of ways to test a RIC. Doesn't have to be close to the money. Doesn't have to be right to open. Like, and actually, we made a video a couple weeks ago, a YouTube video. You can check it on the channel. It's called "Is This Tired of Winning?" And it has some RICs that are farther out of the money, as Dan would say. Maybe the pit traders would call them more spec trades. So there's a lot of ways to riff on a RIC, as it were.
Wow.
And I mentioned the term MERIC. Troy broke out in hives when I said MERIC. The brokers started applauding. They loved that term. Yeah. But there's this idea that the RICs don't have to be all or nothing. They don't have to be in the way that you may have seen them share. They don't have to be that way. And like I said, we have a video that's weeks old that kind of explores this concept of, if you're in a trade that has long-term positive expectancy and you're in a drawdown, how do you respond to that trade? Is it in a drawdown in the backtest that is making new max drawdowns? And after doing OO for 3 years now, there's a lot. We started right before dailies. There were a lot of people who had ideas that literally had not lost when we started OO. Just a quick history lesson. There were people that had, I remember a couple double calendars that had literally never lost. And they won 30, 40 times in a row. This is true. And it was, Dan loves it. It was because 2022 happened to be dream setup for double calendars. But the idea applies. Like, there was an FOMC trade that a lot of folks were doing, a variation on a trade. And it had some crazy multi-year win streak as well. It had never lost. Point is, backtesting is, we say this, people don't actually think about it. Backtesting is backward looking. It's in the name, backtest. We don't know what the future is going to be. So here's a question. What do you do when you have a back test that's making new lows? What's your response? Troy, what's your response?
Well,
I'm not even
as
going to
always,
say MERIC again.
there's a thing taking shape in the show where people have made comments in the comment of every time Matt says this is a world-class back tester, they take a shot. It's a drink. Every time Dan
This
says
is a
when I
world-class back tester.
every time Dan says when I was in the pits,
That's
they
right.
take a shot.
I'm
And
taking
they haven't come up with mine yet, but I'll go ahead and just say this again. Soccer sucks.
Wow.
So every time I say soccer sucks, you
Wow.
can take a shot. But
That feels like it might be a little harder to work into a regular OO story, but challenge accepted by
challenge
Troy.
accepted. Yeah. No, I'm going to go ahead and say MRIC or is it MRIC?
Let's not do it.
MERIC.
Let's not. That's
Yeah,
Right.
it's every time I say
2 for
MRIC,
2.
it's terrible. And then every time Rusty
hurts
says,
my
let's not do this. I'm going to say take a shot. So anyway,
what?
I think that how you respond to that has everything to do with your emotional ability to look at it and say, the number one thing you have to do is you have to look and say, is this a part of the plan? Because
Yeah.
what the number one thing people do is they look at a test and they say, it expects a 10% drawdown, but people forget that there's a 10% drawdown in it. They just they're like, oh, you might have a 10% drawdown in any given time. So let's look at a test real quick just to show you what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
This is one of the first small account challenge tests we did, which is we started with the RIC. Okay.
Nailed it.
So, yeah. So if you look at this, I'm going to go ahead and run this real quick year to date through, I'm going to go February 28th.
Yeah, because the first 2 months, yeah. There you go.
23
about
trades, 9 are winners. This is all I want to do, fellas. This is
Yeah.
all I want to do. I just want to trade the RIC. Like, I'm a RIC trader. I'm Slick Rick.
All
and
Slicker.
in.
Slicker.
You
Slicker.
you trade this. Okay. Well, again, that's year to date. I mean, you could do it. I don't want to do it for time's sake, but you could do it and it would look good up until the end of February. Okay. That is a pretty big drawdown considering where we were at
Yeah.
and the size of this trade.
Well, and a big drawdown, you're doing 1 lots. So
Right.
if you
Yeah.
Right.
But this isn't the only time this trade has seen this drawdown, which I think you're about to show us, right? I mean, I was just looking at that graph since dailies, and there was a period of time back then when you had an issue.
Well, and this is the way in my mind I look. No, you can jump the shark. Jumping the shark would have been like doing so. Yeah. Anyway, that would get me off tangent.
I used the wrong thing. Yeah, go ahead.
It's a pretty big drawdown. I'll put it that way. In relation to history.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big drawdown. But so what do you do with that? What do you want to do with that? There's a couple things in my mind. The most obvious is I have said for a week, I'm going to put this trade on until my small account challenge. We're going to automate this thing. And you're seeing in real time, the reason we're talking about this is I don't want to. I don't want to automate it. I'm like a little stubborn child. Someone's like, automate your trade, eat your spinach. You made this test for the small account challenge, eat the spinach. I'm like, no, I don't want to automate this.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to just randomly lose $200 to $400 a day. And you're like, well, how small is your account? It's not about that. It's about the idea of saying, like, I don't want to win on a bunch of other trades and then every day be like, well, this thing dragged my account down.
Yeah.
And that's what this stuff does, is if you'll have theoretically a portfolio of tests that are winning, and then you just start getting annoyed because you're like, well, all my profits today went to this stupid test that keeps losing.
Well, Troy, you bring out the most important word or one of the biggest words to keep in mind when you're an option trader is size. That, here, the RICs, I think, are a wonderful tool. I really enjoy them, and but you always have to remember, it's like a pig in mud. You can put you could put a tuxedo on a pig, but it's going to go in the mud. And I think with this thing, it's negative theta, right? And there's nothing you can do about it. This is a negative theta trade, but it's positive gamma that you get long deltas. If we go up and short, you go short deltas on the way up, long on the way down, which is the opposite of your double calendar, iron condor, range bound, whatever, butterfly. So it's a wonderful thing. But, even in times like this, as long as you have if you have much more positive theta than it's a bit of a hedge, right? But I think where the pain, Mr. T, where the pain comes in is you say, I love this trade. This is the only trade I'm running. I'm running a negative theta trade. You're right. It's going to be some very painful stuff. But like Matt, wouldn't you agree with you or Rusty, who do a lot of double calendars? If your positive theta is overwhelming the negative theta, it still has some benefit, but you can get through these periods. It's all about your sizing. Wouldn't you agree? Or how do you look at it?
I would agree 100%. And it's sizing relative to the other positions. And so,
that's right.
Like you said, like some people are premium sellers, right? That's what they're doing all day. They're doing the MEICs and they're doing the EMA trades. They're selling puts, they're selling call spreads, things like that. But I would call myself a double calendar trader. I'm putting them on, tranching in, doing them every day of the week, long-term, short-term. And so I realized one day, I was like, I had these 0-day long delta trades much too large compared to the DCs. To Troy's point, like I was staring at like, well, DCs are crushing it. And then this thing kind of reverses trend and all of a sudden it wipes out all my gains because you get 10 losers in a row, right? And that's the problem. It's running every day except Monday.
Yeah.
And you can have 4 in a row and it can lose a lot of money. And I mean, 100% times 4, right? I mean, you're going to, not 100%, but you can go to almost 0 by 3:56 p.m. on this thing if all the juice is squeezed out of it. And so to your point, I kind of reevaluated it. And that's the nice thing about the portfolio tool is I took all my DCs, I shoved them in a portfolio uncapped because I wanted to see the effect on each other, right? Which you can't do if you cap them. But, you put them at a percentage base and then you throw this trade in there and you're like, oh, it's making my drawdowns way worse than I'm comfortable with. And so how can I titrate down? How can I take this thing, scale it down a little bit in relation to the DCs, which I love and are stable. And I have like 8-9 years of data, and I know how they work. I know how to manage the risk. There's no risk management on this.
That's right.
Right. It's going to go to 0.
That's right.
There's no rails. So, I mean, the risk management is the size. That's your own, to your point, that's your only risk management.
I just think like this, when you get tired, right? When you get tired of say, I've had it with these, the last 3 weeks, the market's been extremely quiet. This is maybe one of the bigger candles today that we've had in a little bit. It's a long Vega trade. The vol's opening up. But how many people would have, if it was their only thing trading, by last week, you would have thrown the towel in if you didn't have any positive data helping. You would have said, I can't take it anymore. You cry uncle, right? Or remember Roberto Duran and Sugar Ray Leonard? Remember Roberto Duran said, no mas. Do you remember that one?
That's right.
No mas.
Yeah.
You would have thrown in the towel. But if, as Rusty said, you have this portfolio where the positive theta, you'd have one on today, right? And it would benefit. So I think it's got to be that portfolio view.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful trade. I like it because like in normal Reg T accounts, the ratio backspread or the reverse calendar, which we would do a lot. I'm not supposed to say in the pits, right?
No, please say it.
No, please say it. I can't say in the pits because they're getting me for the pits and they're getting mad.
No, we want to be gotten. That's the whole point.
I'll say, how about for this one, at the CBOE, right? We would do a lot of reverse iron condors and ratio backspreads because the margins in a portfolio margin account would be very small. But in a Reg T account, it's just hideous what it does with how much margin. Whereas the RICs, that makes a lot of sense, right? From a margin in a retirement account,
Yeah.
it looks wonderful. Everything looks good, but you still have to deal with this exact same things you deal with ratio backspreads, huge negative theta, and you have to deal with that. And you still have to confront that. So if you're looking to say, I'm just going to do reverse iron condors, you will not make it in your career, right? Because a negative theta every day, 365 days, isn't going to generally do it, right? Unless we have some insane year. Negative theta isn't going to do it. Positive theta is going to do it. So it's a good lesson on.
I think that's exactly right. And Matt's going to show this test that I just put up here in a second. He's been working, but I'll say this before he does. I think personally, when would you put this on again? Because if everything you just said, Dan, is true, like this is not a bad setup, and this can be a great hedge. But like, I don't know how many times in my life I have literally closed out my tail hedges for a loss because I couldn't take it anymore the day before VIX goes up 40%.
Always, I've done that plenty of times. Yeah,
and so you learn basically with this, but this is in some ways why I think the RIC. You shouldn't think of the RIC as it's like a day-to-day hedge on a portfolio.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But it's not anything beyond that, because I'm not riding or dying this thing. I'm not going to ride this thing down to a ground to where it's a negative P&L. I don't care enough about this trade to do that. The tail hedges, I know what can happen with those, and I really don't need them to win but once every 4 years.
That's right.
To be okay.
That's right.
And so I've learned to, like, I don't care at all about those things. I don't look at them. It's not even like last night's action. People who know the type of trading I do, people are like, what's going on? Like, guys, VIX opening above 20 ain't doing anything for me.
Right.
The type of stuff I've got on.
You're going for the big short. You're going.
Yeah. If VIX opened at 40, if VIX opened at 40, I would make some moves, So anyway, Matt, what are we looking at here?
Well, again, this is literally the peek behind the curtain here. I sent Troy a message. Hey, send me the link to this. I did one iteration on it. I was like, oh, this is exactly the point I was hoping it would make. This is the same backtest that we just had. I literally just changed some deltas. And it's just the point. It's to try to get people to think about the idea that there are infinite variations of these concepts. And it may be true that most of the concepts have been explored, but the variations have not been. So this thing's still in a drawdown. Like, right, it's still in a drawdown, but it's taking a smaller shot every day. You're using less of your powder every day. And the idea is that it, and I haven't run any variations of it. So you can see it's still done poorly this year. But the idea is that it still allows, in the event of a huge market correction to the downside, it would still allow an uncapped situation. And Troy's running some variations on it now, but because the deltas are farther out, it's going to cost less. So there's less drag. Now that fundamentally changes what the thesis of it might be, right? Like you're changing what the backtest is. So it's not, I just pick different deltas for no reason. You're changing what the thesis is.
Can we talk about one additional thing you're talking about thesis? It got me thinking.
Yeah, hit it.
So what is this whole backtest predicated upon? What idea? It's that if volatility is down in the morning, right? Buy when it's cheap. Buy when it's cheap. And that was a good signal, I think. I have a backtest that goes back to 2017, and I'm looking at it, and it was a really good signal from mid 2021 up until about this election time, about the tariffs. We'll say tariffs because it really is tariffs that fell off. The wheels fell off. And I started thinking, why? Well, that's because most of the news, except for the Fed rate minutes at like 2 p.m., most of the news was pre-market, right? CPI, PPI are 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, an hour before the cash open. And so the market would do something, and then you would buy thinking, oh, there could be mean reversion. Who knows, right? But that was a signal based on pre-market events versus since the tariffs. My voice is cracking like I'm a teenager. Since the tariffs, the news has been intraday, a lot of it, right? Random press conferences on both sides, right? One, people lobbing stuff back and forth through the news at each other. And so it just doesn't seem like as good of a signal. It's just something is wrong with the signal. And so you think to yourself, fundamentally, perhaps, is this a trade you pause until we get back to where like the pre-market news is sort of a good signal? I don't know. That's a theory I have, right? Because the other time it did really well was in 2018, which if I remember was also a year where there was a lot of news about rate hikes or lack thereof. And I remember Trump railing on Powell or whoever, way back then even, right? There was a bunch of railing on the interest rates and all that kind of stuff. So just a thought. Smarter people than me, but just a thought I had. Just
not many, but I agree. I agree that I think that's a smart way to do it. Sorry. One thing you'll notice I did on this. Now, this is an interesting little tidbit. You'll notice I took off, I took off the 4 delta. Why did I take off the 4 delta?
Changing what this test is. You're uncapping both sides. You're making it a little bit more Talebian.
You're uncapping both sides. That's correct. And that is the main point. There's one other point to it. Why did I take off that leg? If you look at this, here's the leg, the short leg.
Because in mid-April we went to a bazillion points up.
There was one when Lambo day if you had long calls.
It was a 10% up day. Yeah. If you didn't have a short.
That is also correct. The short you're paying $4 for. It's not really providing you with a lot of like percentage to the long that you're paying. Yeah. It's not really helping you cost wise at all.
Not much of a discount.
It's $1.06 versus $1.02. It's not. Yeah. It's not. And so that does improve the test when you take that off. What's interesting about that, what I will say though, that actually makes sense to me. Now it's just a long strangle, which is fine, of varying deltas. But what is interesting to me about that is there are some trades like butterflies. I've seen some orb butterflies where you say, why are you selling 2 shorts for 3 cents each? Right. And that actually does improve the trade.
Yeah.
Like if you take that off, it's actually worse. Why is that? My sense of it is when you go to that strike, those shorts are inflating, and therefore it gives you time in the profit tent.
Yes.
And it caps vol, even though those shorts at that level are capping vol. And so I don't think that's as in play much in this type of test, if that makes sense. So listen, I'm feeling a little, I've been drinking coffee. I kind of actually like this right here. Matt,
I do. Here's the thing. I'm just going to say this.
Trade.
It's that one trade. And this goes back to Thesis. What are we trying to accomplish? Because here's just another. We have a world-class backtester, Tom. It's time.
I love it.
And I'm just been playing around with this. If you make this just a 10 delta strangle on both sides since 2022, again, this is a 1 lot. It's the sack. Where are we? We're in the sack. But it's got a 32% capture rate at a 1 lot. Now the MAR is 0.8. So like nobody high fives over a 0.8, right? But it's a different type of thesis. And like, I just think there's a lot to explore here because how much digital ink is spent on running variations of short iron condor, guys?
Yeah.
Like I get it. The short iron condor premium is priced in a way that there should be an edge to sell premium. There should be. We also have a world-class backtester and Tom, and the idea is that you can do infinite combinations. You can play with this thing to your heart's content and look at variations on it. So
do log scale on that one, Troy, real quick.
So here's another one. Rusty, what do we got?
I just sent this one to Troy. I just cooked this up just now. I mean, basically it's the same thing, right? It's close, 35, 45, so not right at the money, get a little bit discount. And then 5 and 10 delta on the wings, right? So you get a little more distance on the put side. And here's the point of this, right? This isn't hyper optimized. I have a min RSI of 40 simply because I don't like trading these things when the market is like really, really, really tanky and whipsawy. It's just, you're just going to overpay. So anyway, that's the only thing I added to it. 10% allocation. But look, there's like 3 years there where it does squat. And then there was a giant, this is what I was saying, there was a huge advantage of it for about 3 years. And now it's going back down again. Is it going to go back up again? I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know.
And people be like, well, when do you know when to put it back on? Brother, if I knew that, we wouldn't be sitting here. I would be in my golden yacht.
Aruba, Jamaica.
Oh, side note, listen, I know we're late, but like I've got to know while we're all here. Again, second day in a row. Does Troy wash his clothes? What do you think? But go
what
Beach
are we
Boys.
looking at?
What is the best Beach Boys song? What is your go-to Beach Boys song? Rip Brian Wilson,
Barbara Ann.
Great song.
That's a good choice.
Barbara
Yes.
I'm going with Kokomo because Recruiter played mandolin on it.
That's
That's
great
actually
song.
not my real answer.
I like that song.
God only knows.
I mean,
not as popular, but
yeah. No,
I mean,
great.
Great.
It's God Only Knows is a classic. Rusty.
I mean, Surfing USA is pretty fun,
Of
right?
course.
It's a classic.
can't go wrong.
The answer is help me, Rhonda.
The answer is help me. The answer is help me. That is that is a great one.
Help me, Rhonda. He has a song. Side note. I'm going off track for a second. You know, Brian Wilson really got into drugs, and there's a story.
Correct.
Correct answer.
I mean, that's where a lot of the songs came from. He's
For
troubled
sure.
about this.
You don't write good vibrations unless something is happening in your brain. But there's a story of him writing this song called "Shortening Bread," which is the song. It's taking the baby song, "Mama's Little Baby Loves Shortening, Shortening," and apparently there's multiple stories of him doing drugs with John Lennon and things like that, where he would get on a piano and play Shortening Bread for like 7 hours.
Oh my.
And people would be running out of the room, being like, I've got to get out of here. And someone asked him one time, he's like, what's the best song you ever written? He said, well, the best song of all time is Shortening Bread. And they're like, why do you think that's the best song? He said, it's just the best song of all time. Anyway, shout out.
It's pretty catchy. It's pretty catchy.
Anyway, so drawdowns on RICs will continue until something changes. Am I ready to put it on? No. I would probably put it back on. If
In XSP.
XSP. If we start showing signs of life. I mean, is there anything in that last little curve that gives you confidence that we're out of the drawdown? No. The answer is no.
But the fact that I mean, what do you ultimately? I get it. There's a volatility component here, not as much with a 0 day from a volatility as if this were a 6 day, Rick. But the key is the fact that we got to, are we getting a little bit bigger candle? That to me is giving a little bit of light. The fact that we got a bigger candle today, we can have a bit of a range today. You have the weekend coming up, so some more shenanigans. We've been very light with the candle size. And I think with today, possibly the weekend, now Monday, what happens Iran, what happens this, I wouldn't be opposed. If someone said to me, would you have it on? I wouldn't have a huge problem. But again, it comes back to, let's go back to the beginning of the show. How does my portfolio? If I've got a lot of positive theta on, it's coming on, right? If I got a lot of positive theta on and now the candles are getting bigger and I think the candles would continue maybe a little bit into next week, I don't think it's a bad idea. So, you got to start with that big picture perspective, as Rusty and Matt were talking about. But anyways.
Yeah. Last thing, Aaron, ztrader.com just said a good question. And something that you guys have asked a lot about in the small account challenge. And I defer to Matt and Rusty because they taught me this, actually. Next week's a short.
Do you all plan to open DCs after move we had? Well, listen, we don't give advice. And we're not here for anybody to copy what we do or don't do. But from a high level, I mean, it's just what it is. From a high level perspective, though, the move we had, I'm guessing that's referencing the move overnight. I would say that another question more people were looking at based on the OO Discord, which is probably if you want to get a pulse to what kind of folks are thinking, that's a good place to do it. Next week is a short week. There's actually a US holiday called Juneteenth, and a typical rule of thumb among a lot of folks is they don't do DCs during short weeks. So
that's the real advice. The real advice is we can't give you trading advice. We give you backtesting advice. Backtesting advice says go
backtest it.
Go into the backtester, backtest specific dates, and then punch in all the Fridays before short week, right?
Yeah.
And your sample
see what
size
you see.
But you can do a long term, if you have a DC that's run since like 2017, you could punch in a bunch of dates and you can look at it and make a decision. Personally, I have found that the returns are suboptimal on all my DCs. And it kind of makes sense because there's no volatility that's sticky, and you need those longs to not get crushed.
Short weeks come up short a lot of times for that type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, Dan, do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you just said. I mean, we've gone from VIX of 16 to it looks like we're going to open over 20. And now we go into next week. We could go right back down to 16 as we get into this. So next week's a full week, right? And then the week after is the shortened week, correct?
Next week's a short week. Is it Thursday that's off?
Yeah, Thursday's off next week.
Thursday of next week.
Yeah, it's Juneteenth.
Oh my goodness. So. Okay, yes, I agree with that, and especially, do you generally like to put on double calendars with a decent volatility increase? No, right? You generally would rather have a low vol entry, generally in these. Yeah. So, anyways, I agree with the numbers. The money ball. I agree with the numbers.
Yeah. Final thought for the day, as Joseph points out, next week is Friday the 13th. No, today's Friday the 13th. Ooh. And Tom, we got a world-class backtester, so you can backtest specific dates on Friday the 13th. So it's 9:24. Right. Troy, I think it's time to take the people home. Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.
Well, let me just say this real quick because I like to say final things as well. The final thing for me, my final piece of advice is, I did buy a gold butterfly yesterday. I bought a couple of gold butterflies.
I got a gold debit spread too.
I knew it would leak out. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
guys, it's Beach Boys weekend. It's got to be. People got to turn on the grill, region depending, barbecue. Listen to some Beach Boys, right? Troy, give them 3 songs they got to hear this weekend.
Mama's little baby.
Shortening bread.